Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Misinformation Show. I am your host, Amberstar McTerry, and today we're just going to get right into it because I felt like I should have spoke about this sooner, but I had like a lot of busy schedule going on, so I couldn't get to it. But right now, I'm gonna just dive right into it. What the hell happened to Essence Fest? That has been the $1 million question for the past couple weeks. According to a lot of people online, this year's Essence Fest had a different energy and not everyone felt at home. Why are some Black Americans saying that they're being pushed out of their own spaces? And why does asking that question get labeled as hate? Why is that? According to sources online, the ticket sales were lower than they usually are. Their energy was off. And a lot of vendors pulled out of the event. I'm hearing vendors pulled out because of the lack of professionalism among the organizers. But hey, that's just what I heard. So this year's Black Americans felt like the event that was created to celebrate a distinct culture, Black American culture that is, has been hijacked by foreigners. Okay? Now, before y'all get triggered, this is not about hate. I don't say, oh, you're hating, you're the police. No, this is about boundaries. Okay? Black Americans, we are beginning to set boundaries. Why is it that the Black American is obligated to include the entire diaspora in our ethnic celebrations? We even got people hijacking Juneteenth, an American holiday. Why did we see Caribbean Juneteenth events? Why am I seeing Afro Beach Juneteenth events? Why is that? And to be fair, now that I think about it, I feel like America itself is a hijacked country. America, to my knowledge, is the only place where people can come here and bring the cultures and traditions from the country they fled here and then try to force everybody to assimilate to this culture. That's why I'm glad Trump made English the official language, because y'all can't come from wherever y'all come from and wherever and trying to say, oh, we got to speak Spanish, y'all need to be bilingual and all that BS. No, America is the only country that does such thing. And then the Black American, we have been low-key forced to do that thing too, but now a lot of people are beginning to wake up. Like, we shouldn't have to share our culture and traditions with other people. We won't be allowed to do that if we go to their country. So this is not about hate. It's not an anti this, anti that. I'm just that we are setting boundaries, and I'm glad a black American renaissance is happening, and it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful to witness. Okay, and I love it. I don't care who get mad. Period. Okay, next. So now let's talk about what Essence Festival used to be. Essence wasn't just a music festival. It basically was a love letter to American culture, especially to the Black women who've carried that culture for generations. Because when it comes to style and all that stuff, like in Black America, we carry that. Okay, so Essence magazine was created the Black American women were the target market for Essence magazine. Now every I'm pretty sure there are exceptions. You might find some white people or some Latina women who may be a fan of Essence magazine, but at the end of the day, Essence magazine was the target market for Black American women. So Essence Festival was the one weekend where you didn't have to explain your slang, you didn't have to explain your hair and why it was curly on day 1 and now it's straight on day 3. Essence Festival it was an event where you could just be, so it felt like, family reunions, Sunday mornings, all wrapped in one. It was a space created by us, for us, and it showed, or it used to at least. Somewhere along the lines, the vibe shifted. We all are starting to notice this shift. So let's go back to June 2020 when Carolyn Wanga, a Kenyan immigrant, joined Essence Ventures, which is the parent company of Essence Festival. She was the chief growth officer. After Michelle Ebanks, the longtime CEO of Essence Communications, left the company in early 2021, Carolyn Wanga stepped in as interim CEO in February 2021, and by May 2021, she was officially appointed CEO of Essence Communications. As CEO, Wanga led a deliberate push to reposition Essence globally, embracing not only Black American voices, she decided to lift African and diasporic talent as well. Okay? So, throughout 2021 and 2022, these new hires like Barku Tubman Zawolo, who was the head of diasporic engagement. Y'all hear that, right? Head of diasporic engagement. This is a new title, by the way, okay? Let me make that clear. Essence Festival did not have a head of diasporic engagement until Wagner came in and took over. So, in essence, no pun intended, she basically came in and created a senior staff with African roots, which indicated a shift towards a Pan-African vision. So, with that vision came a redesigned festival lineup. We're now beginning to see more Afrobeats, more African brands, and diaspora speakers and influencers. But let me add this in so people won't say, oh, you're being biased. Da, da, da. I must say that 2020 actually, for just to be clear, 2020 was the first year Essence Festival saw Afrobeats and African artists appearing in the festival lineup. Okay, this obviously was before Carolyn stepped in, but 2020, this was also during COVID. Okay, so it wasn't really a big deal then. It was during COVID. The festival was virtual, and these artists were more of guest features. Okay, as they should be. They were guest features. Like, it wasn't a festival-wide focus on the African diaspora. Like, this year, I saw a photo on Twitter. They were having like a little cook-off. They had like jambalaya and a whole of rice. Like, it was like whole of rice versus jambalaya. Why is that type of rice even here? If you really want to get into it, you should have had red rice versus jambalaya. Because I'm from Charleston, South Carolina, and New Orleans and Charleston are very similar. Like, they got Creole people, we got Gullah Geechee people, and we make red rice in Charleston. Okay, if you really wanted to have Black American cook-off events, that's what it should have been. You should have had like different foods from America. Okay, now back to it. In 2022, when the Essence Festival made its in-person comeback after the pandemic, Afrobeats artists were the main stage performers and headliners. These people, they weren't just the side acts. This is when Caroline was officially running everything. Okay, they had people like Tim's and Wizkid, and don't get me wrong, okay? I love Tim's. I think Tim's is great. So I don't want to say, oh, just anti this, anti that. No, we are just setting boundaries, okay? I love Tim's, okay? But let's get back to Carolyn. The gag. The gag of this entire situation is Essence Festival is being run by a descendant of African slave traders and slave owners. Yeah, what? African slave traders and slave owners. Does this sound familiar?
I had the opportunity to join a group of people that went to Ghana for the Full Circle Festival. I had talked with my dad about being excited about going because I knew my Kenyan heritage. I'd known it from the beginning. My dad told me all those stories, right? It was undisrupted by the slave trade on the eastern coast. I was excited to go to Ghana because the remnants on the coast there of the transatlantic slave trade were something I didn't see in Kenya, and I was excited to see that. So I was talking to him about that, and he paused and he said, well, there was another slave trade that happened on the eastern coast of Africa that doesn't have a lot of history behind it because it took slaves to Asia, but they weren't allowed to procreate, and so it didn't last as long. He said, so our heritage did interact with slavery in Kenya. And I was like, well, Dad, you said it wasn't disrupted. And he says, well, the Wangas did what they had to do to survive, which meant participate in the enslavement of other Kenyans.
Wow.
Bro, we can't keep letting history repeat itself, bro. At the end of the day, we have to eventually wake up. This is what, like, I've seen, like, these people, I don't want to say these, like, I don't want anybody to get offended, but at this point, I'm just going to talk, okay? Seem like these, like, Africans been trying to sell and control Black Americans for the longest. Now, I know they have their struggles and stuff like that, too, in Africa, like, don't get me wrong, but the fact that she's a descendant of slave owners and slave traders, like, Obama, like, Kamala, why does this pattern keep happening? Matter of fact, every time a Black American does something that could potentially have a big impact on culture and the country and things like that, they eventually have to sell it to someone else, someone like a white person, or things like that, or they put this token immigrant in to say, oh, I look like you, so we're all doing the same thing. Those days are over, okay? No more African, no more descendants of African slave traders and slave owners from a different country coming here and trying to control all stuff. So, the women running one of Black America's most sacred cultural events is not even Black American by heritage. This doesn't mean, immigrants shouldn't come here and have a job or they can't contribute to anything, but it absolutely matters who's steering the ship and whose culture they're prioritizing. Like, now, if you want to come here and contribute to work, you got to remember where you at and who started this and who built this. Here's what people don't want to admit. Inclusion is beautiful, okay? Don't get me wrong, I love everybody, but replacement is not. That's going to stop today. There's room for other cultures on the stage, like absolutely, nothing wrong, nothing against that. But we can't keep doing this at the cost of erasing the people who built the platform. In this country, Black Americans we held it down for decades. We fought the civil rights battles. That's all y'all come here to profit off of and take advantage of and benefit off of. We create the global music trends all over the world, okay? We built brands like Essence into cultural powerhouses. Yet, now we're being told to hush when we say, hey, can we please keep some spaces focused on us? And they tell us to shut up. Why? Why? Nobody calls Jamaicans xenophobic for a gatekeeping dance hall. Nobody calls Nigerians divisive for wanting to keep Afrobeats Nigerian. But let Black Americans say, can we please keep Essence focused on our culture? And suddenly we hear, oh, why are you being so divisive? Here's the truth, guys. Inclusion should not mean erasure, okay? I repeat, inclusion should not mean erasure. Unity is beautiful at the end of the day, but not when it's built on top of someone else's identity being muted. I'm not anti-African. One of my closest friends is an Ethiopian. Okay, so I'm not anti-African. I'm not anti-Caribbean. But I am pro-Black American, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. The issue a lot of us are having right now is that we are simply tired of the gaslighting. Why? People would say things like, why are y'all separating yourselves? Because nobody else is protecting our culture. We can't keep inviting y'all in and do this and do that and then erasing our culture and our traditions and then say, oh, we all the same. No, because we can't go to your country and do that. And then people will say, oh, well, Black is Black. Well, depends on who you ask, honestly, because in these other countries, in these African and Caribbean countries, they don't call themselves Black. Y'all just go by your ethnic group, your ethnic name. And then when you come to America and you're forced to fit in, then you call yourselves Black. So really, it depends on who you ask. You can say Black is Black, but culture is culture, okay? And culture is different. Essence Festival was built for a specific cultural group, and that group is Black Americans. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna say. Here's how I'm gonna wrap this up. Black Americans are not obligated to sacrifice our cultural spaces for everyone else's shine. We've always welcomed people in, but the cookout can't keep getting bigger and we're getting pushed further away from the grove we built, okay? Let's be real. If Essence wants to stay relevant, they need to remember who built it. Okay, you can't come here no Hall of Rice Jambalaya cook-off when it should be red rice versus jambalaya. Okay, this is America. Okay, so you guys, y'all tell me, what do y'all think? Let me know in the comments. Did Essence Festival feel different this year? Is Essence Festival evolving or is it erasing Black American culture? Let me know y'all thoughts. I want to hear. Let's keep this conversation going because we have to remind Essence where they are. Next year's festival, we better, it can't be the same. I hope she's listening. I hope Carolyn is listening to the people in this country and the people who built the magazine about our feelings. And next year we see a little more Americanized events, okay? Let me know. And as always, I want you guys to protect your energy and protect the Black American culture. Peace out.